All right. One of the things that happened this week, and we had Jeff Hafley on the program on Tuesday. Jon-Eric Sullivan, GM of the Dolphins, was here, and it's clear that they both, and Hafley talked about the importance of alignment. We discussed that yesterday, the alignment between the GM and the head coach, no daylight between the two. They are fully and completely aligned on the talking points when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, without question.
Yeah.
Jon-Eric Sullivan said everything's on the table, including the possibility of a trade with Tua Tagovailoa. I asked Jeff Hafley about the same topic, Tua Tagovailoa's future in Miami. Here's what he said. Where do things stand, and when is the timeline to make a decision?
Yeah, I think everything's on the table. Tua's
You are in alignment with Jon-Eric Sullivan. He said the exact same thing.
Well, we have to be alignment on that one, or I'd get yelled at. I mean, so it's let me not pretend that I wasn't prepared by Ann over there to answer that question. And but what I tell you is we are aligned on it. We've had a lot of conversations about it. Tua was in my office. I had a great conversation with Tua. I mean, and he's an awesome guy. So, whenever Jon-Eric decides to make that decision, I'm sure he will. But there's a lot of decisions to make. I mean, we have 30 free agents. So this roster, what it looks like today, even going into the first OTA, is going to look a lot different.
I've seen the argument by some that since they owe Tua Tagovailoa $54 million anyway, they should just keep him on the roster. You never know if you may need him. You get down to QB2, QB3. I think that symbolically, as they turn the page on the old regime to the new regime, he has to go.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It'll be a thorn in your side if he just sits there, no matter who you bring, right? We've thrown out the name Malik Willis just to connect dots, right? We have no idea what Miami's going to do right now, but they got a GM and a head coach that came from Green Bay, right? So let's just take, for example, we get him down there to Miami. And, he's the first time he's a starting quarterback and he's doing that. Does you really want to put the extra pressure on him in that situation to go, hey, the guy that was starting here and, had this big following of, like, crazy psychos who didn't really see the reality of what he was with Tua on, but all of that, and they tried to tell everybody he's a superstar, we're going to have him sit behind you. So, as soon as you falter, you're going to hear that, and it's going to disrupt our team and do all that. So that's where I'm with you in that, yes, it seems like you got to cut the cord altogether here and just end the marriage with Tua, with Tua and the whole situation. Tua, as we know, too, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to necessarily fit exactly what they want to do on the offensive side of the ball. And Tua on the other, the other thing is just off of that, the trade. I mean, no one's going to trade for Tua. Like, does somebody think somebody's going to bring Tua in and trade for him with that money, and go, hey, be our starting quarterback? Like,
well, no, it would be a Brock Osweiler style.
But this
Jared
is like
Goff
Brock Osweiler
style.
It's like 20.
I know.
Yeah,
but the question becomes, is there a way for the Dolphins to offload some of the cash and cap burden by basically selling a draft pick?
Yeah.
So if you find a team that has a ton of cap space, would like to load up the roster with an extra young player or two, how many millions of Tua Tagovailoa's $54 million for this year will they take on, and the cap dollars, and what do they want with it? Because with Osweiler 9 years ago, it was $17 million for a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
Yeah.
What would a second-round pick cost by way of $30 million, $35 million? I don't know. But that is one way to do it. And then you take Tua onto your team. Miami pays what it pays. You're going to pay what you're going to pay. You get the extra pick. You keep him around if you want. You cut him if you want. It doesn't matter at that point because it's a transaction based simply on buying a draft pick. That's it. We're going to take on $30 million, and I'm just throwing out a round number, and we're going to get a second-round pick for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what a second-round pick costs 9 years later.
No, it's an interesting conversation. I don't know either, right?
But that was the first time that ever happened.
Right,
and with the Goff-Stafford trade, and this was part of the effort by the Rams to save face, and I think this is why Stafford was only going to get traded to the Rams, because it was part of this broader effort by the Rams to find an exit ramp from a Jared Goff contract they regretted 1 year after signing him to it.
Right.
It wasn't obvious that they gave the Lions a first-round pick because they did to take Jared Goff's contract.
Right.
Because when you look at the imbalance, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Matthew Stafford, and we're giving them Jared Goff? Wait, what? it's ridiculous, but it's not as obvious. So, and somebody raised with me, and I doubt that this will happen. This was during the season. And we're going to talk about Kyler Murray coming up, actually, but once the Kyler Murray thing in Arizona was over, and then once the Tua thing in Miami was over, it's like, hey, why don't they just trade those two guys and then balance out the cap burden, and then it won't be as obvious that somebody is giving up a draft pick to unload their cap burden. I don't think that makes sense. In this case, I don't think that the Dolphins are going to want to bring in Kyler Murray.
What's the total money we're talking about here, right? When it's so close to $100 million, right? Are we talking it
for what?
I mean, total
to take on
like,
Tua?
Yeah, Tua for the rest of for everything. Like, right? What's his?
Well, it's $54 million guaranteed, and it's another $3 million that's going to vest in early March.
And what is Miami going to take on total? Right? If they cut him, what's it going to be?
It's $99 million in
that's
dead
what number
cap.
I was thinking. Thank you. Okay,
so every dollar they would foist onto a new team would reduce the $99 million because 54 is part of the 99 because it's fully guaranteed. That's the problem. And this goes back to the Chris Greer decision. And the Dolphins may want to fire him again, frankly.
Well, yeah.
When you consider how bad that contract was. And we said it at the time.
Well, of course
you know,
we did.
not everything we say is ridiculous because we were saying, don't do this. Why are you doing this? Who are you bidding against? You have him under contract for another year. He's yet to show that he can consistently stay on the field.
Right.
Why are you paying this guy a market value contract? And he's the one who said the market is the market. That's fine, but you're not in position to go to the market yet.
Right.
You have another year under contract. Why did they feel like they had to sign this guy? Where was and this is a sign of a dysfunctional organization, that there's nobody in the Dolphins organization, at least there wasn't at the time, who was in position to say, what the hell are we doing?
No, you're right about it. Well, they gave Chris Greer, like carte blanche. They just said, do whatever you want.
Or carte blanche.
Carte blanche, whatever. You know what I was saying.
Or Cartier blanche.
Yeah, right. But yeah, they let him run the show. And in that, what happened? He ran two really good coaches out of town because he didn't want to hear, what are we doing here? We're giving this guy this contract. We're making this guy the quarterback. What? You're just going to tell us what to do, and none of the coaches or anybody here believes in that? So, yeah, he ruined the team that way. And you know my phrase.
But think about this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but think about this. The absence of a dissenting voice, and I'd love to know if someone was saying, we can't do this. Like, where's Mike McDaniel on all this?
Well, I know they were. I know Brian Flores argued through some of this stuff.
Well, he was long gone by then.
Well, yeah, but like they're just these things where it was.
Do you think McDaniel was saying to Chris Greer, have you lost your mind? Why are we paying this guy right now?
No. At that point, no. I think when it happened, I think Mike McDaniel was like, hey, I'm just all in. This is new. It's all working so far. Let's just ride the wave, right? I feel like that's kind of where Mike McDaniel was at. I'm sure he might have had some reservations about what Tua might be ultimately, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel there. We'll see where this goes. But
it wasn't working. I mean, he had managed to play a full season in a year where quarterbacks were dropping left and right. That was the great irony of the 2023 season. That was the Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers. This guy's out, this guy's out, this guy's out, and Tua just keeps going. But still, they were one and done in the playoffs.
Yes.
They went to Kansas City into the deep freeze, and they couldn't do anything.
No.
So...
But he led the
million
NFL,
a year.
But he led the NFL in passing yards that year, and the offense was on fire, right? So we that's where we jumped onto
Except when it was really cold.
Right, and that's where we can get into this a little. That's where you bring up Jared Goff and his situation. Is that apples to apples? No, it's not totally apples to apples. He got a little lucky there. He got lucky in one that some people still believed in Jared Goff, rightly so, and Brad Holmes, who was from Los Angeles, went to Detroit, and he was one of those guys in the L.A. building that still believed in him, so that worked out for Jared Goff there. But if that didn't, if that wasn't there, would they been able to get rid of Jared Goff the way they did with the first round picks and all that? I don't know if they would have been able to do that. I don't know. So that was a special circumstance. Now you look at the league right now and you look at the teams who have cap and have that, right? And the teams that can maybe afford it. All right, Tennessee at the top. I mean, they're not going to do that. We know that. The Las Vegas Raiders are second. They're not going to do that with Fernando Mendoza. The Chargers are absolutely not going to do that with Justin Herbert and Mike McDaniel there as the offensive coordinator. And they're looking at it like, hey, we're about to make a push for the Super Bowl here. The Jets, I can't imagine that. Frank Reich being up there now and that coaching staff, and they've seen firsthand in New York that, and like you just said, Tua can't throw in the elements and can't do any of that. So you go down the list here. Washington, no, that's not going to happen. Seattle, no. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, no. Pittsburgh. Okay, there's the first team we get to that you could go, is there a quarterback, spot? Maybe that could work. And then you go, I don't really think that's realistic to think
that's the team that ended his time in Miami.
Well, exactly. So I'm just saying. So you get down the list here of teams that have money to maybe say, like you say, we can buy a pick or do any of that. I don't think any of them are, one, in the situation where they want to, flirt with the Tua situation at all to bring him in. And I don't think hey, we're just going to bring him, trade for him, get him, and do the cut thing. I don't think that's going to happen here with Tua. It's a little different than the Brock Osweiler.
They just have to cut him then.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're getting to. They're going to have to cut him. They're going to have to eat the dead cat money, and then they're going to have to figure out what they want to do. Do they want to? They're going to split it up, or do they want to take a huge lump hit in year one and kind of get it off the books that way and move on? But yeah, they're going to have to make that decision. It's going to be a tough one.
Our friend Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald mentioned to me last week that he has crunched all the numbers and he thinks there's no way they could take the $99 million
in
this
1 year. Right.
But I think that if you're able to restructure enough other contracts, you can always create cap space if you want to create cap space. And if they want to take the full 99 this year, rip the Band-Aid off this year, they can do it. I don't see the benefit to doing it because if you kick those cap dollars into next year, the relative impact is going to be smaller because the cap's going to go up. The only argument to doing it all in 1 year would be if the cap's going to go down, and it's not.
Right.
So it would be 55 and change this year, 43 and change next year. The Broncos did that with Russell Wilson, and they made it to the playoffs both years with that Russell Wilson cap burden. Now, they drafted a first-round quarterback, and he started from day one. You mentioned Malik Willis. It's going to be a challenge to structure a contract for him that fits into the cap space they're going to have available.
Right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.